Have you ever felt like the more you give, the less you seem to matter? I remember a time when I poured my heart into a friendship, a relationship, or even just a casual conversation, only to realize that the other person seemed to take me for granted. It's a bitter pill to swallow, feeling like you're no longer appreciated by someone who once cherished you. Today, I want to share a simple trick that might just change how you see these situations. It's something I've learned over many years, a lesson that comes from the heart and a life filled with ups and downs. Sometimes, the trick is not to force their appreciation, but to start with your own. Before we get further, I'd like to know where you're joining us from, and if you get any value from these videos, a like and subscribe would mean a lot. I'm truly curious to know your story, where you are in life, and how these old truths might be touching your journey right now. It's a conversation between friends, not just another video, so let's dive in. There was a time when I had a dear friend who always seemed to be around for me. In my mind, our friendship was a bond that nothing could break. Yet over time, I started to notice that I was always the one making plans, always the one who reached out first. I was the one who cared deeply, while she seemed to have moved on to other interests and people who returned her energy. It hurt, but I was too proud or perhaps too afraid to say something about it. I convinced myself that maybe I was expecting too much or that I was reading too much into her actions, but deep down, I felt unappreciated. I realized that when someone stops appreciating you, it is not necessarily about your value, it might be about them and their own shortcomings. Over time, I discovered that we often forget the simplest truth. You must first appreciate yourself before expecting others to do the same. This isn't about vanity or self-centeredness. It's about recognizing your own worth and treating yourself with the kindness and respect you deserve. And here's the simple trick I want to share with you today. When someone stops showing appreciation for you, start by stepping back and giving yourself a little time. This isn't about withdrawing in anger or shutting people out completely. It's about creating a space where you can see your own reflection clearly. Often we get so caught up in trying to make others happy or proving our worth that we lose sight of the value we hold within ourselves. Sit quietly, take a walk, or simply find a moment where you can be alone with your thoughts. In these moments, ask yourself, do I truly appreciate who I am? Do I honor the efforts I put into everything I do? It might sound simple, but this practice of self-reflection is a game changer. I remember sitting under a large oak tree, the one that had been in my backyard since I was a child. I spent hours just sitting there, watching the leaves flutter in the wind, and I realized how much beauty there was in taking a step back and simply being with my own thoughts. That day, I began to appreciate the little things about myself, the kindness I offered to others, the hard work I put into my career, and the compassion I held in my heart. Once I started acknowledging these parts of myself, I noticed something extraordinary. I no longer needed validation from someone who had lost the ability to see my worth. Now, let's talk about setting boundaries. One of the most practical steps you can take is to gently let go of the expectations you have of that person. This doesn't mean you cut them out of your life completely, but rather you stop expecting them to meet all your emotional needs. In my experience, setting these boundaries can help you reclaim your power and energy. You might say to yourself, I deserve respect and care, and that becomes the starting point for rebuilding your relationship with yourself. I recall another time when I was in a similar situation with a colleague. Over the years, I'd often gone above and beyond, but it became clear that my efforts were taken for granted. Instead of continuing down that path, I took a step back and began to focus on what I could control my own actions and responses. I set clear boundaries, ensuring I didn't overextend myself. And soon, I found that not only did my work improve, but I also felt a renewed sense of energy and self-respect. That simple act of setting boundaries turned a draining situation into an opportunity for personal growth. Now, let's be honest, there will be moments when you feel guilty for taking that step back. You might worry that by valuing yourself, you are being selfish or that you are leaving the other person feeling hurt. But here's the truth. Self-appreciation is not a zero-sum game. When you learn to value yourself, you are not taking away from others. You're simply ensuring that you have a strong foundation from which to give love and care. I've seen many people find that when they begin to honor themselves, they naturally attract more genuine appreciation from others. It creates a ripple effect in relationships that is both healing and transformative. One way to practice this is to start each day by acknowledging one thing you value about yourself. It could be something as simple as a kind act you performed the day before, or perhaps a small accomplishment that brought a smile to your face. Over time, these acknowledgments add up, and you build a reservoir of self-respect that no one can drain. I started doing this every morning, and eventually it became a part of my routine. I'd look in the mirror, smile, and say, "Today I am worth it." And in that moment, any hurt from unappreciative people seemed to fade a little more. Another part of this simple trick is learning to let go of the need for external validation. Life is full of ups and downs, and while it's natural to seek a little praise or acknowledgement from those around us, we should never rely solely on it to feel complete. I once met a wise old man on a long bus ride who told me, "When you find that your heart is tied to someone else's approval, you're not free. True freedom is found in knowing that you are enough." Those words have stayed with me all these years. When you let go of the need for someone else's praise, you open up the space to live more fully and authentically. It might help to shift your focus to gratitude. When someone stops appreciating you, try to count the many little blessings you have in your own life. Perhaps it's the love of a family member, the loyalty of a friend, or even the beauty of a sunset that reminds you that life is full of gifts waiting to be noticed. I remember spending an afternoon with a friend who had just lost a relationship. Instead of dwelling on the loss, we spent time listing the small joys in our lives: a good cup of tea, a kind word from a stranger, the sound of rain on the roof. That simple practice of gratitude helped him see that even when one door closes, many others remain open. You might wonder, what if I've tried all these things and I still feel the sting of being unappreciated? It's important to remember that healing isn't a straight path. There will be days when you feel strong and days when the old hurt resurfaces. On those difficult days, remind yourself that it's okay to feel pain. It's a part of life. Instead of judging yourself for these moments, try to accept them as a natural part of your journey. Over time, the pain will lessen, replaced by a deeper understanding and acceptance of your own worth. I've seen many people transform their lives by simply choosing to focus on themselves and letting go of the need for constant approval. It's like tending a garden. If you neglect the soil, the plants won't thrive. But when you nurture the earth, everything around you begins to blossom. In the same way, when you invest in yourself, you create an inner landscape that is rich, resilient, and full of life. The people who once failed to appreciate you will either come around or fade into the background, making room for those who truly see your worth. In the end, remember that life is too short to be weighed down by the opinions of those who no longer care to see you shine. The simple trick I want you to try today is this. When you feel unappreciated, pause for a moment and remind yourself of all the reasons you are valuable. Embrace a moment of solitude where you can reconnect with who you are. Set boundaries that protect your energy. Practice gratitude for the blessings you have, and most importantly, let go of the need for someone else's validation. These steps may seem small, but they have the power to change your outlook and lead you to a more fulfilling life. I'm sharing this with you not because I have all the answers, but because I've walked a similar path. Over the years, I've learned that the journey to self-appreciation isn't always easy, but it is one of the most rewarding roads you can travel. Each step you take to honor yourself brings you closer to a life where you no longer depend on others for your sense of worth. And that, my friend, is a freedom that comes from deep within. If you take away one thought from today, let it be this: you are enough just as you are. Your worth isn't measured by the praise of others, but by the quiet confidence that grows within when you care for yourself. Embrace your journey, trust your own light, and watch as the world begins to reflect back the beauty you see in yourself. Thank you for spending this time with me. I hope these words resonate with you and provide a bit of comfort and direction. If you ever feel that the weight of unappreciation is too heavy, remember that you hold the power to change your narrative. Let your self-appreciation be the start of a new chapter, one filled with respect, gratitude, and a deep sense of peace. And remember, this isn't just a trick, it's a way of living that can transform the way you see yourself and the world around you. Take care, be kind to yourself, and know that you're not alone in this journey. I'd love to hear from you. Where are you joining us from today? And what little steps have you taken towards self-appreciation? Let's keep this conversation going, sharing stories and wisdom that only time can teach. Until next time, keep nurturing that beautiful, resilient spirit inside you.